So far, we look at two examples on recursion, namely the factorial problem and also the Fibonacci sequence problem. And both of them share one thing in common, which is the parameter for the method only takes a single integer as the input. And that's actually rather simple, but it's a very nice way for us to introduce to you the idea about recursion. And from now on, we're going to look at some more sophisticated example. The first one I would like to look at will be recursion on strings. You can think about each string is simply going to contain 0 or more characters. In some ways, more like a sequence or an array of characters. Conceptually, that's really the idea you want to have. Okay, let's now, before I move on to solving the problems together with you, I would suggest we actually look at some necessary methods you should really know about the string class, which is part of the API for Java. Okay, I'm going to look at one example code to really illustrate the methods I'm going to use in the three example problems I'm going to solve for the recursion on strings. But I would suggest you actually go to the Java API. You can simply Google for Java API string. And then the first hit should be the one to look at. If you go to the string class and then look at the method summary part, so those are actually the methods that you might actually use whenever you want to solve the recursion on strings. Okay, I'll leave that exploration to you. Let's now look at this example code over here and see what methods that we might need for solving the problem recursively on strings. Okay, let's now look at this example code here. And the methods I would like to talk about will be, let me just highlight them first, is empty, and also substring. Okay, just the substring method here, which will take which takes two parameters as inputs, and also char at over here, which will return a single character within the bounds of the string, and also one more, it will be the length of the string. So these are the methods I would like to talk about for the string. Okay, let's just go over the code one by one and then try to trace the string. You will see what I mean. Okay. So we'll start with a string S. You can think about S at the runtime is simply going to point to A, B, C, D, right? A, B, C, D over here. Conceptually, as I said, you can think about each string is simply an array of characters. So I'm simply just going to put their indices. Index 1 has a character A. Index 0 has character A. Index 1, index 2, and index 3. Pretty much like an array convention. Okay, you can see the largest index you can use on a string is corresponding to the length of the string minus 1. Okay, you can see the length is simply 1, 2, 3, 4. So the largest one for index will be 3. The first method that we can use, usually for checking if we were reaching the base case. So this will be s.isEmpty method. So this is simply just checking to see whether there is no character contained in the string. Okay, so now if you say s.isEmpty, it's simply just false, right? That one's simple. And we can talk about this very important method over here about substring. Okay, and you should really know that what the essence about the substring, how substring works, is it's going to pass two indices over here, and then you should really know the following. The first index is going to be inclusive. Okay, the first one is going to be inclusive. Meaning that if you, for example, if I specify 0 over here, that means I want to get a substring starting from index 0. However, for the second index, it's actually exclusive. Okay, that means let's say whenever I say substring, okay, if I simply pass index n and index m over here, it's basically to get all the characters between index n inclusive and also index m exclusive. I think these two notations are what you learned maybe from the calculus class, maybe in your first year. So that's something I assume you know already. Otherwise, you can just follow my explanation over here, right? So the second index is actually exclusive. And another way to rewrite this would be is simply equivalent to n still inclusive, but to really get inclusive range as well, you can think about is n minus 1 inclusive, right? It's something you want to note to yourself. So here, what we are saying is we want to get a substring between 0 and then up to, but excluding 0. So that means we want to start from index 0 over here, but we want to go up to but excluding 0. So we are basically just getting nothing from the string. So that's why after you get T0, it's simply just going to return I'm gonna print out empty string, right? Let's see one more example. Let's see the second one I want to go over. Let's say if I say substring 04, right? So 0 over here is going to be inclusive. So we're going to start with index 0 over here. 4 over here is going to be exclusive. So that means we're going to go up to by excluding 4. So that means we only go up to by including 3. So we're going to get all the characters over here between 0 and 3. So that'll be simply ABCD. On the other hand, let's say if you try another one here, if I say substring 13 over here, for substring 13, that means starting from 1 inclusive, starting from 1 over here, and then up to by excluding 3, that means up to and including 2, right? So this will be the string that we'll get by collecting character 1, index 1, index 2. So that'll be just BC. All right, hopefully you got it. And let's now take a look at one more, okay, for the substring. It is more like an axiom or like a theorem. For every string you have, for example, S, right? If you want to get an entire string, what you can do is you can choose any middle points over here. Middle points can be any, as long as the middle point is actually valid, right? Then you go from 0 inclusive, and then you go to its length over here. So this will be length. Okay, as we said before, the length of the string, if that's exclusive, that means you are only going up to by including the maximum index that's valid, right? The length. And if you choose any middle points over here, 2 and 2, in that case, if you try to concatenate the two strings together, you just get back the original string. Okay, let's see how that's going to happen. Let me use this, and then I will also show to you in general how this can work. 0 inclusive, and also 2 exclusive. So that means only up to 1 inclusive. And starting from 2 inclusive, which will be index 2 over here, and then go up to by excluding 4. So that means go up to by including 3. So now you're still collecting A, B, C, D, right? So that eventually you will get all the characters over here in the single string. Let's now take a look at the theorem I want to talk about. Just make it a little bit more general. Let's say you got S over here, S dot substring. Let's say starting from 0 and then go up to by excluding some I over here, right? We're simply assuming that I is actually a valid string. It's a valid index. Okay, let's assume. Something we assume, and then concatenate it with S dot substring, and then over here, let's say starting from I inclusive, and then so here we simply say S dot length. Like that. Okay, and one thing to know, so the length is actually a method call. Unlike whenever you want to say the length of an array, you wouldn't actually put a parenthesis over here. It's different, right? So now you're really making a method call. So this is just going to give you back the original string S. But how? Let's now take a look. Let's say S is simply pointing to an array of characters. Let's say an array of characters. Okay, so from 0, 1, all the way to the last one, right? So index 0. So index 0, index 1, index 2, and then so this will be index S dot length minus 1, right? Let's now take a look over here. So if I try to do 0 up to by excluding I, so let's say for example I is maybe somewhere in the array over here. Let's say I is actually simply over here somewhere, right? Somewhere that's actually valid. If you try this one here, let's say just this part. If you go from 0 up to any by excluding I, you're basically talking about this part of the string over here, only up to this part. And the second part will be, let's say, going from I inclusive and up to by excluding S dot length, right? So that means you're going from I inclusive, go all the way to S dot length exclusive. That means you're going to S dot length minus 1 inclusive, right? And if you combine these two, you definitely get back the original string, right? Just the string itself by including all the characters. All right, so hopefully now you're okay with using the substring method. And what if you want to go over every character in a string? The way to do it would be similar to how you go over every element in an array. So you start from index 0 and then strictly less than s.length, which means you only go up to but including s.length minus 1. And then every time you want to get some character, you will say s.character at I. For example, let's say s.character at over here. For example, if I say at index 0, that one is going to return back to you character A. Okay, one more. If I say s.character at over here, let's say, how do I get the last character? Well, if you didn't really know about the length of the string, you can say s.length over here. Make sure it's a method call, right? Minus 1. That one should really return back to you the last character over there in the string. So that will give you D, the character, right? Don't forget, we use the single quotes over here for character, and we use the double quotes over here for string. All right, so that's about the methods. I would like you to make sure at least you know in order to solve the recursion on string. If you want to explore other methods, just go to the API page, which I showed to you. All right, let's now take a look at the 3 problems I chose to study together with you. And the first one is about palindrome.